The Valley, October 1987. Charlton Athletics' home for more than 60 years, one of the most famous grounds in British football, is overgrown and deserted. The club are playing their home games across London at Selhurst Park, and the Valley looks like being lost forever. But this story has a happy ending, and this production is a tribute to the club and its supporters who overcame overwhelming odds to turn back the clock.
Charlton. To Hayes. Little touch for Hunt. Foul again. Long raking stride. Warman. Foul has continued his run. And Warman couldn't quite pick him up, but now he has. Well, he's gone past it. And he's got a good cross in. Oh, what a goal! Hales again! A nasty goal by the man who always seems to get them. Derek Hales. I'm just a kid again, doing what I did again. Campbell, what a good ball to Curtis. T's calling for it in the middle in the air. Tracy! Goal! By Tracy! Marwood getting it away only as far as Tideman, who hits a terrific goal! Well, you'll have to go a long way to see a better one than that. Floated towards the near post, Tracy! To turn it in! And Peacock, who finally turned it in for the second one! Now the young substitute, Kevin Smith. Smith for Colin Powell, crossed him again, and Martin Robinson. Tracy again getting in there, flicking on the dash against the post, but it's there by Matthews. Simonson and Robinson go across there. It's for Robinson, he'll play it again for Alan Simonson. And a shot, and a great goal by Simonson. Delight the Valley fans. Charlton, just in this little stage of the game, seem to have Sunderland rattled as that cross comes in again for Warman. Flanagan just slipping it out for Powell. He tried to chip it in again. Flanagan's right in there. Flanagan's in there, and Flanagan has scored.
The late 40s and early 50s were a boom time for British football. The game thrived in the positive post-war atmosphere, and Charlton enjoyed the most successful period in their history. The FA Cup final win against Burnley in 1947 was the highlight. Charlton were one of the country's leading clubs, crowds averaged around the 50,000 mark, and the foundations had been laid for a very bright future. But instead of building on that platform, complacency set in. Charlton failed to move with the times. The Valley was never properly modernised. The crowds began to dwindle, and by the early 80s, the good old days were a fading memory. The club needed to capture the public imagination, and Chairman Mark Hullier thought he had the perfect solution. In November 1982, Alan Simonson, European Footballer of the Year, was signed from Barcelona. It was an expensive gamble, and it rebounded badly. For all Simonson's talent, he played just 17 games. The club just wasn't equipped for such extravagance. 12 months later, Charlton were on the brink of receivership, and only a last-minute dash from the High Court to the Football League kept the club in business, and the manager, Lenny Lawrence, in a job.
Great stuff. Thanks ever so much for the call.
For the first time, it will be owned by a consortium and backed by a big property group, which I think will be maybe in everybody's best interest, and I don't think that you would see a situation develop again that has developed in the last week.
Out went Hullier, and in came the Sunley Consortium, and Charlton's immediate future looked secure, or so everybody thought. John Fryer was the head of the Sunley Consortium and Charlton's new chairman. The Valley welcomed him like a hero. But the sheer joy of that day in March 1984 soon gave way to a harsh, painful reality. Fryer and his board of directors owned the club all right, but not the freehold to the Valley. And on September the 7th, 1985, there it was, in black and white. Fryer had decided to move the club to Selhurst Park, of all places, home of long-time rivals Crystal Palace. Former chairman Michael Glickstein owned the freehold and wouldn't sell. Whether Fryer pushed him hard enough will always remain a key question. The fans were stunned. The match with Stoke was to be the final game at the Valley. Robert Lee scored the final goal. But a 2-0 win was overshadowed by a mixture of sadness and anger. And the real feeling that Charlton's future was in the balance. It was home, but it never felt like it. Charlton were very much the poor relations during their tenancy at Selhurst Park, and many supporters simply stayed away. Which made their success on the pitch under Lenny Lawrence all the more remarkable. He built a team good enough to win promotion to Division 1 in 1986, and somehow they stayed there. The setbacks were breeding a unique determination. Leeds United discovered that in a dramatic playoff decider in 1987.
Sheridan's got 15 goals this season, a lot of them from free kicks. Can he make it 16? John Sheridan's done it! It's a better looking cross. It's away by Adams, only as far as Grit, and it's still in that penalty area. Stewart. Oh, it's a goal for Charlton Athletic! And it's Peter Shirtliff. It's all square again. But now Mervyn Day there, getting that wall just where he wants it. It's got to be inch perfect, as we saw when Sheridan beat Boulder. Walsh runs over it. It's now left for Peake. Oh, it's a good one! Oh, it's the goal, which might well have preserved First Division football for Charlton Athletic, and it's Peter Shirtliff again.
That success was crucial. It kept the bank manager happy, and more importantly, it rekindled the club spirit that was to play such a big part in eventually going home. Ten months later, the Valley was back in the news. 2.5 years left to the elements, and the Vandals had taken their toll. The good news was that Roger Alwyn, the new chairman, and Michael Norris had finally managed to buy the freehold. That was a step in the right direction, but to turn the derelict site into a football ground again required new designs and planning permission from Greenwich Borough Council. By 1989, the ball was rolling. Volunteers tidied up the Valley, and the club submitted its first plans for a revamped stadium. 10 acres of land would be sold off for housing to help finance the scheme. Things were moving in the right direction. And in March, at a crowded public meeting, the club formally announced their decision to return to the Valley. And they did it with the full blessing of the council leader, Dave Picton.
Charlton has a great past, and I think it's now got a great future. And I'm pretty sure that when the formal processes have been gone through, that future is going to be back at the Valley.
And once again, Lenny Houdini Lawrence and his players did their bit. Relegation had looked a certainty at one stage in the season, but victory over Derby County in the penultimate game guaranteed another year of First Division football and First Division revenue. And all the more satisfying for Lawrence and his players was that they did it without compromising their strong footballing principles. Things were looking good for Charlton Athletic. Then a big setback. Charlton were caught up in council red tape. New legislation on commercial development had moved the goalposts, and all of a sudden the club no longer had the backing of the Greenwich Borough Councillors.
Buildings will only be permitted where they are ancillary to the existing land uses.
Dave Picton, the council leader, had moved on, and the chances of turning the Valley back into a football ground again looked more remote than ever. This was the response. On January the 31st, hundreds of supporters marched to Greenwich Town Hall in a massive show of public support aimed at overturning the council's recommendation to reject a return to the Valley. The councillors still said no, but if they thought that would be the end of it, they were wrong.
The one thing Charlton is very good at, both on and off the field, I think, is battling, and certainly we're not going to throw the towel in.
The Supporters Club will simply immediately put into operation a plan to contest all 36 wards at the next local council election. It's as simple as that. We believe we'll get enough support to worry a great deal of the local councillors.
Political history was in the making, and with the council under pressure, there was still hope.
I think that what next needs to happen is for the board of Charlton Athletic and the council planning department to sit down together to discuss what scale of commercial development the council would be likely to allow on the site. We all know and recognise that the club can't afford to build the stadium without some commercial element, and it's the scale of that commercial element which is the matter which I think we need to be negotiating on.
When you look at the Valley and where it is, I can understand the concerns of the local residents and the concerns of the council, because in an ideal world, I mean, I'd love to pick that up, take it down the road, put it next to a motorway, have 5,000 car parking spaces, have a railway station. But that, at the end of the road, just wasn't possible. We looked at probably 5 alternative sites, but at the end of the road, it kept coming back. The one thing that we had was the Valley.
And so the Valley Party was born. The aim was to increase public awareness, and it worked. The campaign was slick and professional, and from one end of Greenwich Borough to the other, there was no getting away from the message. In the run-up to the May 1990 elections, men and women who previously wouldn't have gone near the political arena acquitted themselves superbly as candidates to spread the word.
Good morning. My name's Kevin Fox. I represent the Valley Party. If I could get your support, then I'll promise you honesty and a bit of fairness in the council. I'm not really a political animal. I didn't want to get involved in politics, but the more I look into this council and I see what's happening, the more involved I'm becoming. And I'm certainly very concerned about the way the council behave. I think their decision at the moment has been unjust, unfair and undemocratic. And I want to change things.
I think a great many people in Greenwich and elsewhere are very angry with the council because they gave this undertaking that they would support the club coming back, and they've broken it. That's why there is a Valley Party in the elections.
We feel it's an issue that we want to get back to the Valley. We feel it's our home, not in some sort of dinosaur shared ground over in Selhurst Park. We want to get down here, we want to get playing back where Charlton belongs.
And the Valley Party must have been doing a good job, because the governing party were quick to devalue their efforts.
Clearly they're in the business of getting their message across, not of actually winning seats running a council, because nowhere do they talk about the programme that they have to run a council, to cope with poll tax capping, to cope with the provision of services, to cope with other parts of the borough than just the area around the Valley football ground.
But everywhere you looked, the campaign was gathering pace, and the pressure on the real politicians was increasing all the time.
Isn't it true that everything the clubs say they need to make football financially viable at the Valley, you will in fact turn down on planning grounds?
Not at all.
So, what will you allow?
We will accept a planning application that fits in with our policies.
Which allows virtually no commercial development?
On that particular site, there is an indication in the borough plan that 5,000 square foot is the acceptable office development.
Well, that was the official line. For Charlton, it was just more convenient, depressing red tape.
I don't think they have any intention of letting us play football there again, or they will do everything they possibly can to stop us.
It really was a battle now, but the Valley Party had come so far, they were determined not to fail. Their campaign was pieced together perfectly, and on the eve of the elections, Charlton stood defiant.
Now they take us seriously and see that we can do joined-up handwriting and can get our applications in successfully. And now they've seen that we can actually run a campaign which can actually beat the pants off them in terms of professionalism. They now seem to be indignant that we are intruding in some kind of private game called party politics, and that we as ordinary people have no right to interfere in this private game.
The result, nearly 15,000 votes, a monumental achievement in a local election and a major stepping stone to going back. By the time Charlton got their rematch with the council, the team were back in Division 2, which made a return to the Valley all the more vital. This time round, the club scaled down their commercial enterprise on the site. All it needed was the official seal of approval. On April the 2nd, 1991, after 3 years of campaigning and another nail-biting night's wait, they finally got the right result.
Tremendous support, and I think the fact that nearly 15,000 people voted for a return to the Valley last May obviously gave us a lot of hope as well.
This has got to be our best result of the season, without a doubt.
The biggest hurdle had been overcome, but the battle for the Valley wasn't over yet. 6 weeks before the start of the 91-92 season, the old ground still resembled a building site. Getting it ready on time would require another superhuman effort.
Builders and architects have to take on the role of magician sometimes. We're going to say abracadabra and hope it works.
It didn't. Even Mother Teresa would have been hard-pressed to meet the deadline. The builders did their best all right, but time was against them. Charlton would have to kick off the new season sharing Upton Park. And they do it with a new management team. After 9 years, Lenny Lawrence left for Middlesbrough. The club promoted from within, Alan Kirbishley and Steve Cripp took over, and in a difficult season, it was to prove a very wise decision. Because the temporary move to Upton Park turned into a more permanent one. More deadlines were missed. In the end, the building work just stopped. The club had run out of money, and once again, they turned to the fans.
Information on the Charlton debenture scheme. Public meeting next Thursday at the Meridian Club.
In March, the Valley Investment Plan was put forward, offering fans the chance to buy a stake in Charlton's future.
I think it's a good idea generally. I think it offers different options, which I think will suit all pockets and all levels of interest in the club.
My first thought is it's a good idea. Enough supporters go behind them, raise the money, get back to the Valley, and I think it will solve their problems.
Similar debenture schemes had failed at other clubs, but Charlton had done their homework and were confident they were onto a winner.
From the time the scheme was first mooted, we got in touch with the supporters club. We took their views and we encompassed their views, and the whole scheme has been put together in conjunction with the supporters. And the supporters want this scheme, the supporters want to be back at the Valley, and hopefully we are going to raise the £1.5 million to ensure that we will play here.
There's pensioners, there's younger people, people with families, single people, from every walk of life. This scheme has been designed so that people, with whatever their personal situation, can make some contribution.
Once again, the club and supporters were on the same wavelength. Within months, the VIP scheme had raised more than £1 million, and that's in a recession. It was the final piece in the financial jigsaw, and the chairman could finally name the big day when Charlton, at long last, would be playing a proper home game again.
We have taken the decision to proceed with the Valley, and that will actually happen on the 5th of December, which is the first match will be against Portsmouth.
The dream was turning into reality. The unique bond between club and supporters had won a famous victory.
When you think what we've actually done to them, I mean, we took them away. Personally, I didn't, but the club took them away from their home, took them to Selhurst Park, took them to another part of London. Everybody hated that. We then said that we were going back to the Valley. We obviously, I mean, our battles with the council and all the other problems have been well documented, and on occasions, you know, we've said yes, we're going, and then it hasn't happened. Who else but Charlton supporters would form themselves into a party, a return to the Valley party, and fight a local election? I don't think there are many other clubs would get that sort of response. And when it actually comes to it in the end, we're then short of £1.5 million. At a time when everybody's worried about their mortgages, they put their hand in their pocket and produce over £1 million. In fact, the VIP scheme at the moment is just short of 1.1 million. I think there are very few other clubs in the country to get that sort of response.
December the 5th, and somebody up there liked Charlton Athletic. SE7 was basking in a dry, sunny day for the first time in a fortnight. They'd been working round the clock to get the Valley up to scratch, and just hours before kick-off they were still putting the finishing touches. Young and old had marched to the ground, and the chairman looked more like the Pied Piper when he finally opened the famous old gates again. Outside it was a cup final, and a carnival rolled into one. Unbelievable faith and determination had raised millions and uncovered a home, and this was always going to be a day nobody would ever forget.
I've supported them since 1946, my dad tells me. I was 2 years old, and I only regret is I missed the cup final they were in, but I never thought it would happen, and I'm so pleased it has. It's a very emotional day for me.
This is the big day that we've all waited for. We've marched several times, put several protests in. Eventually we're here, and it's all really been worthwhile.
You get so much tradition here, so much history. It's just brilliant to be back.
So the Robins are back at the Valley, are they?
They certainly are, along with everybody else. We're just so happy to be home. It's marvellous today. We never believed this would happen. It's real. It's actually going to happen. The sun's shining, especially for us.
It's broken my heart when they closed this ground down, and naturally I've moved heaven and earth to be here today, and it couldn't be a better day.
Was there a time in the 7 years where you thought we're just not going to make it back here?
Several. I've said on many occasions I'll believe it when I'm actually sitting there, and today I should be sitting there.
By 2 o'clock, the sellout 8,300 crowd were already inside, making a noise even the old Valley would have been proud of. Even the great names of the past paraded before the kick-off had never known an atmosphere like it. All it needed now to stop the champagne going flat was a Charlton performance to live up to the occasion. Now was no time for stage fright.
Don't put nothing at risk at our defensive third. Let's have plenty of shots. Come on, shots. Good luck, everyone.
At 2:55, seeing really was believing. A Charlton team running out at the Valley for the first time in 2,632 days. 2,632 balloons were launched into the sky to mark the end of the exile. And appropriately, that was just the start of the on-the-field festivities. And the Happy Valley really did get a happy return.
Floating in towards Clark. It was Lieburn who'd gone back to help the defence, who got it away. Power sliding it through. I'm not sure whether he got a touch, but there's certainly a touch here now for Robinson. Crossing it in there towards... Oh, and a good header by Gary Nelson. It's Robinson again. Britt. Towards Lieburn. Certainly got the pace and the power. Finding Pitcher. And a shot. And a goal by Walsh for Charlton. And it becomes the perfect start. Well, they've dreamed about this for so long. After 7 long years of playing at Selhurst and playing at Upton Park, they're back at home in the finest possible style. Walsh's goal into the corner of the net, and something like 7 minutes gone. Played there by Pitcher, and Walsh took full effect. 1-0 to Charlton. Webster's free kick. Up towards Lever. Knocks it on well with his head. Nelson was trying to get in behind them. Finds Walsh. Minto playing it in towards Lieburn. And an offside flag is up. Fancy Walsh might fancy a left-footed dip at this one. And Alan Gunn wanting the Portsmouth wall fully back. Charlton needing another goal for that little bit of breathing space. It's going to be Walsh. He's curled it! And he's curled it against the post. A brilliant effort, but not quite good enough. Excellent free kick. for a man who's suddenly banging form with 1 goal already, and so close, as you can see here. And a super shot of that curling ball, just clipping the outside of the post. Grit getting the ball forward again, very cleverly there to Robinson. Turns Daniel well, hooks in the cross, and a fine save from Power's header. Grit jumps, times it so well. Lieber just knocking it on this time for Gary Nelson. Powers waiting in the middle, and it might come for Lieber. It might still come for him, and in the end they get it away, but Nelson turning it in again. That came off a defender. Neil getting it wide towards Whittingham. A good tackle and a good interception there by Minto. And a good cross by him towards Power. A wonderful save again by Knight. Minto getting it away, right-footed up to Power. Here's Walsh, he can hold it for a little while. Lieburn's made the break for him through the middle. And on the far side, well, he's picked up Robinson, but so too had Chamberlain, and done so well. But it's knocking again there, Power with a shot! Oh, my goodness! How did that not cross the line?
The final whistle, and the management and players had made their contribution to the homecoming party. Colin Walsh was signed just after the move to Selhurst Park, but he still bought a house 5 minutes from the Valley because the supporters told him one day the club would return. A genuine football fairy tale had come true.
It meant a lot to me. I've been here 7 years, and I could say I know most of the supporters, though there's not that many, but I think today the supporters were brilliant. The noise, that was the first time I've heard a noise like that for a long while.
To see all the people here today, it was just fantastic. I'm still a little bit lost for words for it all. I said all along it's their day. They've made it possible with the chairman and the directors, and I put my notes in the programme that it was going to be their day. Thankfully, we've put the icing on the cake for them and got the 3 points as well, which for the team was more important to us.
How hard was it for you, finally, to cut yourself off from all the celebrations and actually go out and play a game of football today?
I think Stephen Allen's done a great job with us this week. They've just calmed everything down, because I think Stephen was a bit over the top today, because I've never seen a 44-year-old run about like that. And the two of them have just calmed it down all season, but we had a job to do, and I think we've done it well.
Was there a period when you wondered, are we ever going to really get back here? Is it ever really going to happen?
Oh, in the last few years, I think there have been lots of times when we actually wondered whether the club was going to be here, let alone getting back to the Valley. But having done it, this is only the start, of course. I mean, we've got a lot of hard work now. I just hope everybody that came today, I hope they've enjoyed it, and I hope they want to come back. And as long as we can keep winning, I'm sure they will.